I've never been good at providing abstracts. My best bet is to provide a very abstract. I allow whatever I'm talking about to sort of flow in its own dynamic. And that's what I'm going to be doing here.
Hello, wherever you are. Rhiannon Crane here. Welcome to the first of our Semantrics dialogue sessions, which is basically where psychedelic experts bring a topic to our little group and then riff on that topic. Usually in relation to language, consciousness, culture, art, and whatever else. So we had an intense and illuminating start to the series with Dr. William Rowlandson walking us through the convoluted origins and history of the word sustainable or sustainability. You know, the binds and paradoxes of our present social and environmental predicament. Dr. William Rowlandson is a senior lecturer at the University of Kent in Canterbury. He's the author of books and articles on a great many things, including Latin American and Cuban cultural and political history. He's written on Borges, Swedenborg, mysticism, psychedelics, the imaginal, fairy, the daimonic, and many, many more things. He's an encyclopedia of mystical knowledge. So we hope you enjoy the session. If anyone has any topics that they'd like to propose, then don't hesitate to get in touch. The email is semantrics.sessions@gmail.com. So without further ado, we give you William Rowlandson.
Now, what does this all come down to? It comes down to the fact that you guys have set up this whole series called Semantrics based upon the idea of taking a word and wrestling with it. And there is nothing I enjoy more than wrestling with a word. And I have a particular, an ally in my wrestling with words. It is the compact Oxford English Dictionary, published in 1971. It's so small. I don't know if any of you here knows this dictionary, but if you ever manage to get yourselves a copy of it, hang on to it like it's the most treasured and valuable possession. It is in 2 volumes and it's huge. It's absolutely enormous, and it weighs, my goodness, it probably weighs about 4 stone it weighs. It's in 2 volumes and it comes with a little drawer in the top. And in the little drawer, what is in the little drawer? Who knows? What's in the little drawer at the top?
Magnifying glass?
It is. It's a magnifying glass. It's a beautiful magnifying glass. It's kind of one of those lovely 1960s and 70s kind of heavy, chunky, black sort of Bakelite, and it's made by Bausch and Lomb, who have been making all sorts of heavy plastic things for a long time. And what I find beautiful about this is that Ursula K. Le Guin, whom I consider to be one of the most phenomenal people of all time. And for those of you who are not familiar with Ursula K. Le Guin, today is the day that you can become familiar with Ursula K. Le Guin. Everyone should know Ursula K. Le Guin. And I'm going to read you guys something. From Ursula K. Le Guin. Oh, I've got it here. So this is from the introduction of the Book of Fantasy by Jorge Luis Borges and Silvina Ocampo and Adolfo Bioy Casares, all 3 of whom are extraordinary people. There are 2 books, she writes, which I look upon as esteemed and cherished great aunts or grandmothers, wise and mild, though sometimes rather dark of counsel, to be turned to when the judgment hesitates for want of material to form itself upon. One of these books provides facts of a peculiar sort, the other does not. The I Ching, or Book of Changes, is the visionary elder who has outlived fact, the ancestor with a capital A. So she's so old she speaks a different tongue. Her counsel is sometimes appallingly clear, sometimes very obscure indeed. The little fox crossing the river wets its tail, she says, smiling faintly. Or, a dragon appears in the field. Or, biting upon dried gristly meat. One retires to ponder long upon such advice. The other auntie is younger and speaks English. Indeed, she speaks more English than anybody else. She offers fewer dragons and much more dried grizzly meat. And yet, the Oxford English Dictionary, or a New English Dictionary on Historical Principles, is also a book of changes. Most wonderful in its transmutations, it is not a book of sand, yet it is inexhaustible. Not an aleph, yet all we can ever say is there if we can but find it. Yet all we can ever say is there if we can but find it. Auntie, I say, magnifying glass in hand, because my edition, the compact Auntie, is compressed into 2 volumes of terrifyingly small print. Auntie, please tell me about fantasy, because I want to talk about the book of fantasy, but I'm not sure what I'm talking about. And then she continues to, that's brilliant. That was Ursula K. Le Guin, 1988, in her introduction to Borges, Bioy Casares and Silvio Campos' Book of Fantasy. I also have the same compact Auntie that Ursula K. Le Guin has, and of the same year as well, 1971, with the same magnifying glass. And of course, what I've done many times, hundreds of times, and this is fitting for talking in a group around semantics, is I've called out, Auntie, please tell me about, and I choose a word. And in this case, the word I'm asking for is Auntie, please tell me about sustainability. So I turn the pages. First of all, I have to choose the right volume, because A to L and then L to Z. So I pull out the second volume. It weighs a ton, even half of it weighs a ton. I get out my magnifying glass, turn the pages, turn the pages, turn the pages, turn the pages, really thin pages in 2 columns. Each column, it basically has 4 pages in each page. That's how small it is. It's just unbelievable. Turn the pages, turn the pages, turn the pages, turn the pages. And I look through it and I find sustain, sustainable, sustained, sustainer, sustaining, sustainingly, sustainment, sustainable. And that's curious because it's quite brief and it only has a couple of quotes. You know how the Oxford English Dictionary has all these quotes from literature, and I can tell you a wonderful story about that, but I'll pause for a minute. It has a little quote, and it's curious enough from Thomas de Quincey, which I find quite interesting. But what I found interesting is 1971, sustainability is not there. And the way I look at it is if a word does not appear in a dictionary of this Borgesian infinitude, then it doesn't exist. Or at least it didn't exist at the time of publication, obviously. You know, it cannot have existed, because if it does exist, it would be there. And sure enough, there are even words there in that dictionary that don't even exist, but they do only exist in the dictionary. Just have a go. You will find some extraordinary words in there. So the fact that sustainability doesn't exist in 1971, to me, is really interesting, because this is an indication that it's a modern word with a modern set of meanings and a whole, as it were, a modern phenomenon. You know, what is sustainability? Well, I guess the first thing we need to do is say, okay, you know, what does it mean? You know, the concept always predates the idea. Well, I say